APFT Houston, 90.1 FM.
Welcome to Politics Done Right. My name is Egberto Willies, your host. Good morning, Houston. Good morning, Harris County. Good morning to the great state of Texas. And of course, good morning to the United States of America. It's the day after SOTU. It's the day after SOTU, the State of the Union address. I tell you, it was great. But before we get there, want to welcome everybody that sees every corner, where we access every corner of this country, every corner of the world, either via our 100,000 watt transmitter that goes into the nooks and crannies everywhere in northwest, or rather northeast, southeast Texas, and northwest and southwest Louisiana. We are going to have a great show for you today. But before we get started, let's visit with our geniuses in the studio, who I understand had a lot of machinations and rejigging out there in Control Central. Good morning, studio. How's it this morning?
Well, Jack, if you're a genius, can you figure out what's wrong with our station today?
It no worky too good.
No kidding. We're having some real issues up here, connection issues. Fortunately, we have a emergency bypass, so I had to bypass a bunch of stuff to get it to continue to operate. So that is provided it's operating. I don't know whether it is or not.
Well,
So we'll find out about it shortly.
Well, you know what that means?
Some wisdom. What's that?
That means that we really, I mean, the fact that you can find all kinds of different ways when one channel is not working to make things happen, I rest my case.
Well, I established this emergency bypass some months ago, like last summer when we were having issues.
Mm-hmm.
So I said, okay, here's an emergency bypass that we can use. And so far it seems to be working. I don't know. Let's see, is it working or not? Let's see here.
We know that no matter what, something is going to be getting over to you, my dear brothers and sisters, because you know who's in the house. Howard and Jack is in the house. So
okay, well, I'm going to go. I'm going to defer to Jack, and then I've got to get some stuff done.
all
So
right.
we'll catch up with you in a while.
Thank you very much, my brother. Jack, how's it going this morning? I know initially you got some problems, but what's up? What's the word of the day?
Well, the word is a day. You know, this metaphor keeps coming up in my thoughts and in my conversations. If you put a frog in hot water, he'll jump out. If you put a frog in a pan of water, then turn the heat up slowly, the frog won't jump out and will let himself boil to death. The people were put into a pan of water under Reagan and the neocons, heavy on the con, with their neoliberal economic policies that funnel the wealth up to the elites, not trickle down to the people. The fire is deregulation, the Supreme Court decisions that give power to the corporate over the people. You know, we've been put into a pan of water and it's heating up with every court decision that takes people's rights away, and every time they up the inflation rate or whatever they want to do with the economy, it affects the people. So we're in hot water.
Yes, we are. Yes, we are. And that is, but you know what? The thing about it is, let's get to the frog and ensure that the frog realizes that the temperature is rising slowly. And you know, actually, it's not all that slow anymore, because if the people make the wrong choices in November this year, the temperature would have reached critical mass on January 20th, 2025, and we definitely don't want that. But you know
All right,
why? Yeah,
Egberto,
yes, sir.
we're now on the air. Our fabulous audience missed that wonderful introduction because there was one of the one of the tin cans was loose and not
And
connected. So now we are connected, and our transmitter is now reaching every nook and cranny. I've never understood what a cranny is, but it's reaching every nook and cranny of our listening area and beyond. So now we can actually talk to the folks and they can hear us, which is kind
Well,
of cool.
that is kind of cool and that is great, folks. Well, if you guys, for our regular listeners, my entry is always about 82% the same. Based on whatever the memory comes by, and then we run to the studio to have our geniuses speak. And today the geniuses had to come through because things weren't working as they should. So knowing that we had those geniuses around meant that eventually we got to the air. So thank you so kindly, my dear brother Howard, for making sure that we were able to continue. So, folks, you're listening right now, and I tell you what, I think we then better go back to Jack because I want folks to hear that little spiel from Jack, which is I'm going to build upon. So, Jack, let's do that again.
Okay, this metaphor keeps coming up in my thoughts and my conversations. If you put a frog in hot water, he'll jump out. If you put a frog in a pan of water, then turn up the heat slowly, the frog won't jump out and will let himself boil to death. The people were put into a pan of water under Reagan and the neocons, heavy on the con, with their neoliberal economic policies that funnel wealth up to the elites, not trickle down to the people. The fire they've lit is deregulations, deregulations of, media, just every law in the EPA they've tried to tinker with, uh, these kind of things that give power to the corporate entity over the people. you know, uh, is that what's going on? I mean, it's getting pretty hot. I mean, things are not really going well with our government. On both sides, we're dissatisfied with both sides some of the
Yes,
time.
let me tell you, Jack, and the reason I asked to go do that again is because, as usual, you always tickle a little something in me to say, you know what, what Jack's talking about. Let's go ahead and put that into some perspective here because I think it's so important. You just talked about the frog being warm slowly. I remember I went to a conference in Detroit. I don't remember the name of the woman who was fighting the water distribution in Detroit because they were turning off people's waters left and right, and she gave that frog analogy, right? And she spoke about how things are changing so slowly. People don't realize by the time it's over, it's done. And that is where we're at. People don't realize these things. Now, you spoke about that warming every aspect of how the neoliberal take over. And folks, neoliberal isn't solely about what Republicans are doing and etc. No, 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 no. Forget that. Then this neoliberalism that we're talking about is a movement in its own right, a corporate movement in its own right, and it's actually ran by both Democrats and Republicans. When people talk about the establishment, that's what they're talking about. But they don't quite realize they think there's a Democratic establishment and they think there's a Republican establishment. The truth of the matter is there is an establishment. There's a left rail and a right rail. The Democratic establishment that we always think about are the ones that guard the left side of that rail. The Republican establishment is the one that guides the right side of the rail. But something started to happen because things were warming up slowly because the establishment taken control. I want you to think about something. If you have two rails, a left rail and a right rail, there's something magical. There is something magical that occurs, and that is both rails, even though there's a left rail and a right rail, they're both moving in the same direction. And in the case of considering the rails, America or economy or whatever you want to use as the example of that rail, the rail is going in the same direction and it's going away from the common person. it's going away from the common person. So you have the establishment, which is comprised of what we normally think of establishment Democrats and establishment Republicans. Suddenly, that warm chain started to be derailed. On one side, you have the MAGA Republicans that are doing some crazy things. And on the other side, the left side, you have the progressives that are saying, no, we really should be from the people. We don't need to have rails going in a slanted right direction. What we need is a derailment. That's what the left is saying. And when Brother Biden took control, for those of us who initially didn't support Brother Biden, because Brother Biden came from a working class background, and in as much as he had some issues and had to work with the establishment and has worked with the establishment all along, we know that deep in that heart somewhere was that hidden guy from Scranton that is going to say, you know what, man, we got to take care of the working man. We got to do that. We got to do that, right? And he gets into power, and those progressives like myself and others are sitting back there and say, well, I guess we got to do the best, get the best that we can, right? And then suddenly you notice that the policies that Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Ilhan Omar, Jamal, and all these other great progressives out there, Framila Jayafal, and all these people, the policies that help people, the policies that make sure families can stay together, the policies that feed people, the policies that educate people, right? Suddenly, because there's a pandemic and it allows spending via the MMT methodology, modern monetary theory, and using Keynesian economics, we could spend and show what spending appropriately, not wildly, not wastefully. Well, sometimes some of it was wasteful because some of it went to where it shouldn't go, to the wealthy, etc. Could work. It could work. So we had this president that many of us call a neoliberal president based on what he had done or had to have done before, passing policies that progressives have long wanted to see. And we actually proved that it worked. We actually proved that funding appropriately didn't turn people into welfare queens. It uplifted families. Oh, wow. It took millions of kids and people out of poverty. Policy did that. Millions of people out of poverty. But the payback was coming, baby. The payback was coming. The corporation said, oh my God, they have money in their pockets. We can't let them use all that money to empower themselves to go ahead and grow. We are going to use that power to take their monies away. And then we created this thing called inflation. Even though our prices on the raw side didn't go up, we're going to sucker it into, those damn progressives gave them money. We're going to take it through increased gas prices. Even though there's a glut of oil, we're going to take their money. Even though egg prices shouldn't have gone up, we're going to take their money. And the inflation that you see has nothing to do with public policy. It has everything to do with corporate greed. You want to be mad at somebody? Turn around and go to Exxon, turn around and go to ADM, turn around and go to all the masters that are making sure those prices go up for no reason. And if you think we're lying to you, go to the stock market and see what inflation does to the bottom line of corporations. Remember what Jack said? We warm it up slowly that you don't realize what's happening. But Politics Done Right is here to tell the truth, to lay the blame where it belongs. So Brother Biden, who we thought was a neoliberal, turns out he just needed that push from some progressives to bring out his progressive soul. And when his progressive soul was unleashed, people, Republicans, Democrats, Independents, and everybody started to do better and better and better. And the crash that was supposed to come if you did the progressive policies The thing that they said would crash economies and create unwielding inflation and all these things, these negative things that were supposed to occur when progressive policies are implemented, was proven to be lies. How do we know that? Remember, all these neoliberal economists that got their degrees from the Chicago boys in the University of Chicago, from Harvard, from Princeton, all of them that told you that we were going to be going into a recession, that we're going to crash. Suddenly, the soft landing that everybody was looking for, it didn't even have to be a soft landing, because a soft landing didn't occur. We never landed, we stayed airborne. Look at the charts, look at the numbers. Now they're starting trying to crash it, because, my God, if it turns out that progressive policies are the things that actually inflate an economy, that actually take people out of poverty, that actually keeps employment low, what happens if we continue on this path? Oh my God, we may go ahead and get good health care. Oh my God, we may go ahead and get good parental care. Oh my God, all these good things would start to happen. And what then happens to this state that we believe needs to be controlled by the few? People. People understand what's going on. Let's get back to Jack. That warming of the frog, the water slowly warming. And what's happening, folks, is the panic is setting in. The era of the billionaires.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
The era of the billionaires is now in doubt. The era of the parasites, the billionaires, are now in doubt. We'll talk about that a little later, because I got some calls coming in, but I needed to expand on the great initiative by Brother Jack. Tag, come on in, my brother. How are you doing this morning?
Morning, Edberto. I'm good.
Talk
How
to
about
me.
you?
I am doing great, sir.
I like the idea of the frog in the hot water,
Yes.
and hopefully this time the American public jumps out of that hot water.
Yes. 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 Yes.
we
I think.
we saw the same scenario when Carter was president, and the power brokers did the same thing. They just jacked the prices way up there, and they got Carter right out of office. And I'm afraid
Yes.
they're going to try the same thing with Biden this time around.
Well, you know what is interesting though? They are raking. The funny thing about it is this, Tag. If the lower people in the economic scale that do well, the people up top that are still controlling the strings do well as well, right? And the thing about a lot of these billionaires is, they in the past they were willing to take short-term pain for their ideology of mastering everybody else. Okay, in other words, a lot of times in the past, these old robber barons, they didn't mind paying the price to do exactly what you said with Carter. Get Carter out by destroying the economy, and as soon as the other person comes in, you have to recover. But I don't know if you remember the Reagan days after they blew it for Carter. Remember, even Reagan had a hard time reinflating the economy, and luckily it started to occur way on. We went ahead and I wrote a book called As I See It: Class Warfare, the Only Resort to Right-Wing Doom. If you take a look at what happened after Carter and what Reagan had to do, right? Reagan had to do something like what Biden is doing right now, just not to the extent or level that Biden did. Remember the dire straits that the economy was in 1980, because the corporate structure destroyed the economy to rid themselves of the only president in our near term that hadn't created a war and funded the defense industrial complex. They got rid of him. And there's more to it. I'm simplifying that, but there's more to it. But remember that after they crashed the economy, it was hard to get it back. And Reagan had to go back on everything he spoke to about voodoo economics. He had to spend like a drunken dog. He was that person that raised the inflation rate and the deficit higher than any other president combined previous to him. Okay, and a lot of people don't know that. They don't talk about that. They talk about when things started to get rosy when Reagan became a Keynesian on steroids. In other words, he gave big tax break and he spent like a drunken sailor on the defense industrial complex and a lot more. People don't know that. We can't ask a 30-something-year-old to know that. We can't ask a 20-something-year-old to know that, but that's what happened. Anyway, continue, Brother Tag.
Well, and I think we've got to be ready to see this happen to Biden, where they try to crash the economy again. And are people going to buy into that? Oh, it's Biden's fault. Or are we going to say, well, yeah, we'll pay higher gas prices for a minute till this is over?
They tried, but here's what happened. They tried. When it comes to the oil, here's what happened. Remember yesterday I was talking about they couldn't give the oil glut got so bad that they had to give away oil for people to store. They had to pay people to take oil. The oil glut is continuing, all right? It's continuing. So here's the thing. They have to make that choice. There's a lot of balancing act, and if they get it wrong, they're screwed. The electric car industry is building up. Yes, it's on pause right now, but it's building up. You go ahead and you keep messing with people's energy price, gasoline prices. That industry takes off right now. That's what competition does, right? And when that industry goes on, gets critical mass, you can say to hell with the car, and that glut that they have in oil right now becomes more than a glut. So they have to be careful. Remember, first of all, these guys are not the smartest cookies. Business people that run our economy are not the smartest one. Otherwise, the economy would a rich country like we have would have a great economy. All right, it would be great. So they don't know what to do right now because they're scared if they pull the lever like they pulled it on Carter, they are the ones that are going to suffer. So, and that's why you notice when we spoke about a soft landing, the soft landing was not an accident, it was policy. And policy, they don't have. So I'm more concerned about us not informing people, Tag. Okay. In other words, if they were to do something to raise prices, I want people to know where to blame. I want people to know you call them out. I want people to know we're going to start boycotts and all these other kinds of things. Go ahead, Tag, before I go to Johnny.
Yeah, I just had a comment about Biden's speech last night.
Let's hear it.
We have to follow up with that.
Sure.
I think that Biden delivered a figurative gut punch last night to the Republicans, and then he turned around and gave them a figurative kick to the crotch.
Oh yeah.
So I think he did a good job last night.
Biden exceeded every expectation I've had. First of all, when I saw him start went with two guns blazing, or however you use that term, I said, "Oh my God, why did he start that way? He can't." This is what I said internally. This old man can't keep going like this for a whole hour. Why did he start that way? Why didn't he kind of move into a crescendo, right? The son of a gun didn't. Not only did the son of a gun go deeper later, the son of a gun kept increased the pace. I'm like, damn. And then what was more amazing is how this wasn't scripted. This was not scripted. Taylor Green, MTG gives him a button, and when she starts to scream at him, he goes for the button, he pulls it out, and he first of all gave his condolences to the woman based on that button, and then he let her have it. It was like not her, but all the GOPs who were hypocritical about the immigration bill. I mean, anybody who talks about whether the guy is mentally competent or not, I don't know anybody who understand giving speeches. Speeches look like it's an easy thing to do. It is not, especially when you have to understand your crowd. That was masterful, Tag. And I'm not a Biden fan. That was masterful.
He has proved one thing to me anyway.
Yes.
Is that there are some people that are 50 years old I wouldn't want for president.
Right.
But age is subjective.
Right.
And I think that Biden's pretty sharp yet compared to some other people.
Yes.
So I'm going to go.
All right. Thank you, Tag. I agree with you wholeheartedly. Now, but the rest I'll discuss with Johnny. Johnny, come on in. The mayor of politics done right. Here we have Johnny.
Okay, man with cheese with just the bun and the meat. I'm minimalist from now on.
Talk to me, bro.
So, before I give you my reason as to why I think some, I'm hearing my voice come back. Hear me okay?
Yes, I can hear you clear without a comeback.
Okay, I'll try to ignore it. Before I give you my reason why I think some of these statistics are not landing with people, I'm going to give you my two rating for last night's speech. Point rating 0 to 10 scale, 10 being 100. I give Joe Biden 0.5 and 9.0 for delivery, and between 7 and 8 for content, for a composite score of between 77 and 85%.
I can live with that.
Okay. Now, here's why I think some of this stuff is not landing. Last night, one of the first things that, as far as the economy goes, he mentioned was a 15 million new job in 3 years. Right?
Yes.
When you do math, that's say 5% of the total 330 million U.S. population. So 5% would explain why it doesn't resonate with people, because people don't feel it unless it's at least 20% or more. So imagine 4 classrooms in elementary school. Each classroom has 25 kids, 100 kids. So that's like saying you're going to give an allowance to 5 of those kids. So 1 kid in each classroom plus a quarter of a kid gets the allowance, and all the other kids get to look and say, "Hey, where's mine?"
Johnny, can I interrupt you there? Can I interrupt you? I don't want to forget what I'm going to say. Johnny, let me interrupt you there because I want to commend you on breaking that down. And let me tell you why. You know why we don't have universal health care? You know why we don't all accept health care as a right? I want to back off of exactly what you just said there. Because at any given time, probably 95% of more Americans are healthy and not using the system and not going through the cancer that is our healthcare system. And that's the reason why they can demagogue it. You nailed it. So the thing that has to be done, and I'm going to come back to you in a minute, the thing that has to be done is somehow to make people empathetic to that which doesn't happen to them personally at that point in time. And that is what we have to learn to do. Continue, brother.
Okay. So the reason why I use that analogy of the classroom, 100 kids, because we're dealing with a significant percentage of our population who act like 4th graders, B-minus 4th grade students. Look at the way Donald Trump talks. And by the way, I'm seeing a lot of tadpoles with no legs.
Well, and that is sad, right? Donald Trump speaks. I think I think you are being overly kind for saying Donald Trump talks like a 4th grader. I remember when my daughter was in 4th grade, and you could have a much better conversation. We were having conversations about traveling the redwood forest and how the redwoods came about, etc. Think about what Donald Trump talks about. No, I don't think so.
White squat. I said he was a D-minus 4th grader. No insult to 4th graders or your child.
Yeah, there you go. But anyway, Johnny, let me go ahead
a lot of
and
tadpoles with no legs.
Yeah.
We need
Johnny,
universal health care like yes. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Johnny. Take care, my brother. Mayor of Politics and Right. Let's go to John. John wants to say something about the State of the Union. Come on in, brother John.
Yeah, hey. Is this good connection?
Yeah, I can hear you, but you're kind of breaking up a bit. But come on, let's see how it sounds. Talk to me.
Yeah. What do you think of Biden's suggesting to put a base in Hamas for humanitarian use?
There's no base going to happen. Let me tell you what's happening, okay? And I think this is an affront to Israel. And I think that is why Jamal Bowman, in as much as we wanted to hear a lot more from Biden on now castigating Israel for their genocide, I think what he did is what he always tries to do, and that is take take command in a certain way to stick it to the guy. Let me tell you what they're doing in Israel, and this is something I said should have been done a long time ago. America is going to go ahead and build a floating base where ships can come in, UN ships, every ship that can really bring products to Gaza. That doesn't mean having American troops on the ground or fighting on the ground. What it does mean is that the great engineering skills of our army is going to go out there, and then probably in the extent of less than a week or so. I mean, it's going to take more time, but they are going to build a base where, not a base, they are going to build a landing port where ships can come in and bring hundreds of thousands of tons of supplies to Gaza. Now, a lot of folks are going to try to spin it as we are going to put boots on the ground in Gaza. No, that's not going to happen. And if that starts to bleed into happening, you will be hearing from us on that. But no, that's not going to happen, John.
Okay, well, that's all I had to say.
Okay, great. Thank you for calling in, my brother.
Yes, sir.
All right, let's go to Bart. Come on in, Bart.
Yes, sir. Good morning.
Good morning, sir. How are you doing this morning?
I'm doing all right. But
Talk to me.
the state of our union is terrible.
Okay.
The Biden administration has admitted this week that they are now flying illegal aliens straight from Panama into the country.
Wow.
They're shutting down hotels
Mm,
and turning them into migrant shelters
wow.
on our tax dollars.
Wow.
They're printing $1 trillion every 100 days.
Wow.
These people cannot read or write in their own language.
Mm,
I work with them.
okay.
This is the biggest issue we have.
Okay.
None of that other stuff matters. Israel, abortion, it's all distraction.
Uh-huh. Okay, where did you get that from? I'm just wondering, where that information came from. That we're flying. I know that's
It's the Daily
circulating in
Mail
the
this
right
week.
wing media right now. About 400,000 migrants are being flown from Central America, South America to the United States. Somehow they're flown over here. Wow. Let me ask you something, Bart. Bart. I want to ask you something. How old are you, first of all, if you don't mind asking?
I'm 54.
You're 54. What's your level of education?
College degree,
What kind of degree?
a Bachelor of Science.
In what field? I'm an engineer. What are you?
I'm in technology, College of Technology.
Okay, technology. All right. So I am going to tell you something. You are I am pretty darn sure that you're a smart person. Okay? And I am sure that you're probably conservative as well. And that is fine. I have nothing against conservatives. There are some people who believe in small government and
Well,
so
I have.
let me finish. I made you finish. Please let me finish. Please, please, please. I am
Okay.
I'm pretty sure you may be a conservative. Or let me ask that: are you a conservative?
I have a confession to make.
Go ahead.
I'm a Christian nationalist.
Okay, great, and that's fine. You're a Christian nationalist, and so I'm sitting here. I'm talking to a Christian nationalist. What does that mean to you?
That means that America's first.
Okay, and what does that
And
mean?
America's going down the tubes.
Okay, and in what regards
So we have
what
to
when you
run
say
back to
America
him.
first, when I want our listeners to understand, in your opinion, what does a Christian nationalist mean to the whole America? As a Christian nationalist, what are your beliefs? Beliefs that we should be, or etc. Let's not talk immigration yet, or the immigrants coming over. What are your beliefs as a Christian nationalist?
Okay, I'm a Christian,
Hmm.
and I believe that this country is what needs to be taken care of. I could care less about Israel.
Hmm.
I don't care about Ukraine.
Hmm.
I don't care about Russia.
Hmm. And
We're
who
not the
is
world
this?
police force.
Okay, and who when you say this country should be taken care of first, do you mean everybody in this country?
Yeah, stop sending our tax dollars overseas and stop
And
importing illegal aliens.
okay, and then what percentage of our tax dollars do we export overseas anyway?
0.
No, I said what do we do right now that concerns you? What percentage do you think we
We're
give
sending
away?
billions to Ukraine. We're
Yeah, but what
building piers in Israel for what?
okay, so let me tell you what I find sometimes a bit when I asked you about, I wanted to understand how you think, right? Because a lot of time, first of all, America does not exist in a vacuum, nor can it exist in a vacuum. Absent Africa and absent all these other countries where their cheap natural resources afford us the ability to have what we have here in this country, it doesn't exist. So, in order to have access to all these resources that make us the rich country that we are, again, we're not a self sufficient country from a resource point of view or from a worker point of view or any point of views that you can think of. We're not. If you want to discuss that in detail, we can. So, when it comes to America First, one of the flaws in America First is in America First means a poor country, right? I know sometimes it's hard for people to see that, but an America First methodology actually means a poor country because we are so dependent on the rest of the world. If immigrants coming into this country is the byproduct, and which is actually who we are and who you are as well, it is amazing that that message doesn't hold. Now, my thing to all Christian nationalists, and I wish we could do something. I wish we could say, okay, we will partition America into those who consider themselves Christian nationalists. I don't know why you put the word Christian before it. I think you should say nationalists, not Christian nationalists, because if you follow the word of Jesus Christ, and I'm a humanist, not a Christian, but I formerly was a Christian. If you follow the words of Jesus Christ, everything that Christian nationalists of today believe in is anathema to everything Jesus Christ was all about. So, uh, I don't know for people who are proud to say Christian nationalists under the current methodology, why don't you just call yourself a nationalist?
Because I'm a Christian first.
But you're not. You use the label Christian,
Yes, I am.
but how can you be a Christian if you disobey Jesus's requests? Jesus says, love thy neighbor as thyself. Jesus says to go ahead and open your door to the immigrant. Jesus says, I've come to your house 3 different times and you denied me. How can you accept me now because you see me for me? But when I came as all these others I tell you to want or to help, to assist, to be a part of, you ignored me. That's Jesus Christ. So what I'm saying, Brother Bard, is semantics matter. Not only that, but the truth matters. And a lot of what you read, Brother Bard, may be convincing. But what it is doing is it is taking you based on your belief. I don't believe in heaven and hell. But if you do believe in heaven and hell, the people that you are following are giving you a direct highway to hell. But anyway, we'll talk another time. I just needed to
Well,
hear who
let me
you're.
ask you this.
Yes, sir. Go ahead. Ask whatever you want.
Why does your side think that Christian nationalism is a bad thing?
You just proved it. You answered the question. You just said America first, not realizing that America first harms Americans. America first harms Americans. You are asking
Oh, it
Americans
does.
to harm themselves. And you know why? And let me tell you worse about it, Bard. You are not giving America what it means to be America first. I wish all those publications that you read about America first would tell you what it actually means, because it means if you excommunicate yourself from the rest of the world, right? You create a poor America. That's the reason why we dominate the other pieces of the world, because we need them so badly. And we dominate them to get them on the cheap. But we'll talk another time about this in more detail. I got to go to Moses. Thank you, Bard. You have a wonderful rest of your day. All right, come on in, Moses.
Morning, my brother.
Good morning, ma'am. Talk to me.
Okay, my voice is coming back at me. But anyway, let me say this to Bart, and he has already exposed himself, as you said, on the highway to hell. But for any others who stand in the way he thinks, and you have a Bible in your hand, nowhere. One of the first commandments concerning strangers is, you shall not oppress a stranger, nor vex him, for you were strangers in Egypt. And the other one is, you should not have stood in the crossway to cut off those of his that did escape. So if you have a Bible in your hand and you read this and you are still standing there, turning yourself into a creature with two horns on his head, ask yourself, how can you turn back and repent? You see, because this is a nation of immigrants. Why are you doing this to your great, 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 great grandparents who suffered the same thing that the immigrants are suffering today? So here's what I'm going to say to people like Bart. The leaders of the people cause them to err, and those that are led of them are destroyed. Just pray hard that we don't have a big tsunami or a big hurricane or some earthquake that forces us to the border to beg a Mexican to dig a hole in the wall to let us pass. Because as you have done, so shall it be done to you. And that's all I have to say.
Moses, before you go, I want to thank you for that, because I think what is so important is for people to realize that there are things that are under our control and there are things that are not under our control. I use an example like you just used about Yellowstone. Yellowstone is the biggest volcano in America right now, and it moves a few inches a year across America. But at some time, it could reach a crack that we don't know about and just blow the hell up, and the whole Midwest, Texas, all of that would be a goner. And you will start seeing exactly what you just said, a migration south for survival. People migrate to survive. And if Mexico were to take, well, look, Mexico is no saint in the immigration deal, okay? Mexico, we are more lenient than Mexico is with immigration. I just want to say that straight out. But just imagine if who other people take the stance we take in our time of dire straits. So thank you very much for pointing that out, Moses, and thank you for calling in, Isis.
And one last
Yes,
thing, one last
yes.
thing. Let me say, look at the people of Ukraine, look at the people of Gaza, look at all of these other countries. They are our mirror. Today's
Thank you.
better. As you said, it may be our time tomorrow.
There you go.
So,
Thank you very much, Moses.
okay,
Uh,
bye-bye.
let's go to Gonzalo. Buenos días, mi hermano cubano. ¿Cómo estás?
Buenos días, Igberto. Yeah, I didn't hear the entire speech. I'm just getting some highlights from different sources, and
Mhm.
of course, I heard your voice and people who have participated here today. And I have my own opinion. I think if I were a politician, and I would be in the midpoint to win the election, because we are so polarized. And you talk about Biden to bet for the extreme left. That's what he did, because probably in his position now, he's desperate, and since he's the only candidate that we could get, he's trying to do his best. And I don't know if he's faking to be smart or if he's still smart enough. But we have two candidates that are deplorable. We have a fourth grade president, former president, I mean, at speech level, as Johnny said, and we have Biden. And I think we need a referral or probably John F. Kennedy Jr. or whoever wants to nominate for independent, and that will be a big punch. That's all what I want to say now. And about the war in Israel, of course, he didn't say anything because he supports the war, and the Republicans do. So when they want to agree upon an item, they do it well. But they use the smoke curtain to back up their own agenda, and immigration is one of the items. So I really like to hear people about talking about their Christian faith and different opinions here, because that proves that this is a democracy, and you are giving the chance to people from different ideologies to speak up.
Muchas
Thank you.
gracias, mi gente. Thank you so kindly for speaking, Gonzalo. And I'll expand on that a little bit later when after I speak to Brian, but some points that I'd like to tackle as well. Thank you so kindly for your call. All right, let's go to brother Brian. Come on in, Brian.
Good morning. How are you?
Good morning, sir. How are you doing this morning?
I'm doing fine.
All right, talk to me, brother.
I've been checking a lot of things, and I have not found anywhere where immigration they cause less crime. I mean, I've seen it in opinion pieces and everything else, but I haven't seen one documented like State Department, FBI, nothing like that, where immigrants have less crime rate.
Maybe you aren't looking hard enough, because all the statistics are there. Look, first of all, BS in, BS out is the first thing that I want to talk about, right? I mean, and you have to be cognizant of that. I'm going to answer your question, but let me do a preamble to the question first of all. You hear FBI statistics, and a lot of times they break it down by race, they break it down by gender, etc., and all of that, right? But that data is only as good as to what was input to the FBI. So I always talk about in the past that the crime rate, they always show that the crime rate is much, much higher between POCs versus, let's say, the white population, etc. And I always tell people two things. First of all, crime has a socioeconomic component. Beforehand, I better say this. Patricia Forker, welcome on the chat. Sharkula Hairstylist, welcome on the chat. Eric Hayes, welcome on the chat. Let me go up there. And I have some more. I'll call them out as I see them. Anyhow, so those are the things in BS in, BS out. And let me give a perfect example. I live in Kingwood, Texas, a very, very white area. And the kids are no different than the kids in, let's say, whatever one of the, let's say, lower socioeconomic areas in this city. But if you take a look at how police handles our kids out here, right? They have beer bus and marijuana smoking out here in the parks, etc. And if somebody reports them and the police comes, they go ahead and slap them on the wrist and say, go home. A couple of times they busted up their kegs and just told them to go home. In the poorer parts and the more racially diverse parts of our city, that doesn't happen. These people go down, they get a record, they're into the system, and the system sees them. All right. So now, if you go ahead and look at the FBI statistics, it would naturally look like the teens from these areas are more, do more bad things than the teens in, let's say, the Kingwood, Texas, and that's what the statistics would say. Okay. So you have to beware as of your data and understand how to interpolate the data into reality based on the prejudices on the collection of the data. BS in, BS out. Now, you talk about immigrants committing less crimes. The fact of the matter is the following. And one comes by common sense and the other comes by reality. Common sense says, if you're an immigrant, the one thing you don't want to have contact with, and immigrants are very smart. Anybody that is able to go through the jungles in Darien and get across to the United States eventually is not only smart, but persistent. And believe it, I want them as a worker. I want those people who were able to go through a jungle and fought to make it. I want that person here. That person tells me that person has got some character. But anyway, let's leave that aside. These people come
No,
over here.
look,
Wait, Brian. You said your piece. Let me answer your piece, and then I'll bring you back in. All right. Now, these guys that come here, the first thing they want to do is stay away from the smart. You have all the exceptions, and all we highlight when you see the crimes from immigrants is we highlight the sensational, and we portray that as being how the immigrants are. That's false. And it takes a feeble mind, I'm not yours I'm talking about, but in general, the aggregate feeble mind of those who are convincing you otherwise to not see that. Now, the statistics. Every time the FBI gets statistics, they get things like race, they get things like where the person is from, etc. In these polarized times, you can bet your life that that statistic would say whether the person is documented or undocumented. And from every statistics, and I've written blogs with the links to this information you're looking for. So if you drop me a line at info@politicsdoneright, or I'm sorry, at kpft@politicsdoneright, I'll definitely email you the corresponding data that proves the point that we say immigrants commit a hell of a lot less crime than born Americans. Now you can speak, my brother.
Okay. The FBI does not compile immigration status and crime together. Neither does the Department of Justice. I have found nowhere where you can
Brother,
correlate.
I will get it for you.
Now, here's another one. Okay, now, in El Paso, there was an illegal alien that was captured by the FBI. Her name was the Artist Assassin. She's wanted for 6 murders. What was she doing in El Paso, Texas, with guns, knives, and machetes? She cut the hearts out of immigrants.
Okay.
What is she doing in El Paso?
I have no idea, but for every I don't know, Brad, but for let me tell you why this sensationalism is not. I mean, don't demean your intelligence, sir. All right, don't demean your intelligence. There is a hell of a lot other crime. The only reason those crimes rise to the top is because it is committed by a undocumented person. But the crime rate, I mean, that we have in. Oh, hold on, the crime rate. I missed you. What you said?
He said he would call you Monday and follow up.
Okay, I guess he understands why. Let's go to Patrick.
Hey, good morning.
Good morning, Patrick. How are you doing this morning, sir?
Doing fine. I thought that one of the fundamental statistics is that it's very difficult to prove an absence of something.
Go ahead.
That's what Brian is expecting. He's expecting it for somebody to prove an absence of something. It's his burden.
I love. You know what? Why didn't I think about that, Patrick? Why? I mean, you just nailed it. Prove the absence of something. How do you do that? Thank you, Patrick. Continue, please.
I wanted to say that your speech to Bart was beautiful. And I'd also like to point out that people that do want a Christian nation are only about 20 to 25% of the population by belief. And then if you did have that, amongst those 20%, they would not agree. It would make things worse. And so they would be excluding 80% of the population, and then they wouldn't agree with themselves.
It is amazing because I mean, if you are working from an irrational ideology, how can you expect rationality to emerge? It's that simple, right? And that's what I tell people all of the time. What happens is this, Patrick. A lot of people go for the sensational, and when you ask them the questions independently now, okay, let's talk about how this is going to work. The reason Biden was successful in implementing progressive policies is that there was a if then this, if then, I write software. If then, you have a path that you're following, a logical path that gets you to some place. His logical path did something. It stopped poverty. It froze poverty, right? When you have conservatives shooting out ideas, they don't go the next level to say, okay, if I do this, what is the consequences of me doing this? And generally, the consequences aren't nice. Patrick, I'm out of time. Anything else you want to say real quickly?
Yeah, I'd like to remind Brian that he had an opportunity to apologize for what he said about the Palestinian people, and he ignored it. That's inhumane.
I don't think you have a great weekend, Patrick. Anyway, let me throw it to the studio for a little commentary, and then we'll get out of here, my brothers and sisters.
Well, we're still working on the tin cans and string situation. We have found out that it is outside of this building and not anything that we're doing or not doing. So we're making some phone calls to get everything right. But so far, I mean, we're still on the air. So we're working off of a bypass. And Jack, do you have any wisdom, any closing comments?
Don't let your frogs boil.
Hey,
I don't know. Frog legs are pretty good. It tastes like chicken.
Yeah,
like everything else does.
I know. You know what, Jack? I just want to commend you because I preferred where we took this. The title of the show today was President Joe Biden gave an effective State of the Union speech, and the president must channel FDR. That's what I wanted to talk about. But you gave me the opportunity to bring an angle that I wanted to, and based on the calls that we got in, I mean, I think you led the way perfectly, brother Jack. I mean, it really gave the direction of the narrative. So I want to thank you for that, first of all. I want to thank the studio for the great work of making sure we're on air, even as things aren't working appropriately with their connection via the private sector that can make mistakes as well. Thank you very much for your ingenuity, brother Howard Reynolds. And for Jack implementing all this stuff. Callers, love you guys, all of you. You make the discussion worth having. And by us having this discussion here, other people listen to it and they themselves can come to pass with their own ideas and logical ideas. Anyway, thank you all. Love you all. My name is Egberto Willis. This is Politics Done Right. And you know how I end this, baby. I am what? Out.